The conference room aboard Viridian Prime Station was built to impress. Tall ceilings stretched upward into shadows, and the curved walls displayed a live feed of the galaxy itself. Stars rotated slowly in the background, as representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections. At the center of it all, Ambassador Lisa Brennan stood alone at the human podium, her hands folded calmly in front of her. She had known this moment would come. The whispers had been growing louder for months. Earth was too independent, too unwilling to bow. The older species didn't like it. High Arbiter Zek then rose from his elevated seat. His species, the Crithians, had ruled the council for 3 centuries. He was tall, with dark blue skin, and 4 arms that moved with practiced authority. When he spoke, his voice carried across the chamber, without needing amplification. "The matter before us is simple," Zek then announced. "Humanity has been granted membership in the galactic community for 2 decades. In that time, you have shown remarkable growth. However, you have also shown dangerous independence. You maintain a military force without council oversight. You refuse economic integration protocols. You resist our guidance at every turn." Lisa kept her expression neutral. Beside her, Commander Kyle Hayes shifted slightly. He was her military attaché. A career officer who had seen more combat than most people in this room could imagine. His presence was meant to be symbolic, but Lisa knew he was recording everything. "We do not resist guidance," Lisa said clearly. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species representatives leaned toward each other, speaking in low tones. The Crithians were not used to being challenged so directly. Zekthan's expression hardened. "Your fleet consists of 12 cruisers and 40 destroyers. Vessels that would be considered outdated by most military standards in this chamber. Yet you act as though you are a major power. You are not. You are a young species that has barely left its home system. We have colonies in 6 systems," Lisa corrected. "And our fleet serves its purpose. We have no interest in conquest or expansion into territory claimed by others." "That is not the point," another representative called out. This one was from the Venn Collective, a species known for their trade networks. "The point is that you refuse to accept your place in the natural order. Every species must contribute to the greater stability. The Council provides protection. In return, species accept certain limitations on independent military action." Lisa had heard this argument before. It sounded reasonable on the surface. The Council maintained peace. They stopped wars before they started. They mediated disputes and prevented any one species from becoming too powerful. But Lisa had read the history carefully. She knew what Council protection really meant. It meant giving up the right to defend yourself. It meant trusting others to care about your survival as much as you did. Humans had learned a long time ago that such trust was often misplaced. "We appreciate the Council's concern," Lisa said. "But Earth will maintain its right to self-defense. We threaten no one. We ask only to be left in peace." Zekthan's forearms spread wide in a gesture of finality. "Then, the Council is left with no choice. Humanity is hereby given 6 standard months to comply with integration protocols. You will place your military assets under Council oversight. You will accept protectorate status under Crithian supervision. You will open your systems to Council inspection teams. If you refuse, the Council will be forced to take necessary containment measures." The word containment hung in the air like a threat. Lisa felt Kyle tense beside her, but she kept her own body language relaxed. This was the moment she had been preparing for. "The Council cannot force sovereign species into submission," Lisa said. "That violates the founding charter. The charter provides for intervention when a species poses a risk to galactic stability." Zek then replied smoothly. "Your refusal to integrate, combined with your continued military buildup, constitutes such a risk. The vote has already been taken. 39 species voted in favor of intervention protocols. Only 5 abstained. 3 voted against. Lisa had known the vote would go this way. Most of the council species owed favors to the Crithians, or depended on their trade networks. A few genuinely believed the council's propaganda about universal peace through unity. None of them understood humans well enough to predict how this would end. Earth formally rejects this ultimatum, Lisa stated. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not place our defense in the hands of others. And we will not accept threats disguised as protection. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate sanctions. Others called for military action. A few species representatives sat quietly, watching Lisa with what might have been respect or curiosity. Zek then raised one hand, and the noise gradually died down. Then, you leave us no choice. 6 months. Ambassador Brennan. After that, Council forces will enforce compliance. I suggest you use that time to convince your government to see reason. Humanity cannot stand against the combined might of the Galactic Council. Lisa gathered her datapad and turned to leave. Kyle followed close behind. As they walked through the corridors back to their ship, Kyle finally spoke. They're serious, he said quietly. Intelligence reports show the Crithians moving 6 battle fleets to forward positions. I know, Lisa replied. Our fleet can't fight that. We'd be destroyed in hours. Lisa glanced at him with a slight smile. Our visible fleet can't fight that. Kyle stopped walking. He stared at her. What? Lisa continued toward the docking bay. I need you to send a coded message back to Earth. Priority Alpha clearance. Just 3 words. Activate Protocol Darkstar. I don't know what that means, Kyle admitted. Neither does anyone in that council chamber, Lisa said. And that's exactly how we planned it. Later, aboard their diplomatic ship, Lisa sat in her private cabin and composed a message to Admiral Ben Carson, the Supreme Commander of Earth's military forces. The communication was encrypted with protocols that would take the best Crithian codebreakers centuries to crack. The message was simple. They took the bait. 6 months until deadline. The galaxy believes we're weak and alone. Time to show them what happens when you underestimate humans. They've been watching our surface fleet for 20 years. They have no idea what's waiting in Neptune's shadow. She sent the message and leaned back in her chair. Through the viewport, she could see Viridian Prime Station growing smaller as their ship accelerated away. Somewhere in that station, Zekthon was probably celebrating his diplomatic victory. He thought he had cornered humanity. He thought 6 months would be enough time for fear to break Earth's resolve. He had no idea that Earth had been preparing for this exact scenario since the day humans first met the Galactic Council. He didn't know about the construction yards hidden in the outer solar system. He didn't know about the project that had consumed a significant portion of Earth's resources for nearly 4 decades. He didn't know that humanity had looked at the galaxy's power structure and decided to build something that would change everything. The Crithians had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that what they could see was all that existed. They had never asked the right questions. They had never wondered what humanity might be building in the dark spaces where their sensors couldn't reach. In 6 months, they would learn. The entire galaxy would learn. And after that moment, nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Ben Carson stood in the command center, buried 300 feet below Earth's surface. The room hummed with quiet activity as dozens of officers worked at their stations. Holographic displays showed ship positions across human space, resource allocations, and encrypted communication streams. Ben had been waiting for this moment for 17 years. Ever since he had taken command of Earth's military operations. The message from Lisa Brennan sat on his personal screen, 3 words that would change everything. Activate Protocol Darkstar. Send the activation codes to all stations, Ben ordered. Priority Level 1. No delays. His second-in-command, Captain Megan Torres, looked up from her station. Sir, are we really doing this? Once we activate, there's no turning back. The Council has made their choice. Ben replied. They want us to bow down or be destroyed. We're going to show them a third option. Across the solar system, encrypted signals began reaching hidden facilities. On Earth's moon, a construction complex that appeared on all official maps as a mining operation received its orders. The workers there, all sworn to secrecy years ago, began the final preparations. In the asteroid belt, automated factories that supposedly processed raw minerals shifted to their true purpose, and near Neptune, where the distant sun was barely a bright star in the darkness, the largest secret in human history waited. Dr. Emma Wright had spent 12 years at Outpost Prometheus. The station orbited Neptune's moon Triton, hidden from casual scans by the planet's magnetic field and a sophisticated stealth system. Emma was the lead scientist overseeing the final checks on the project. She had given up a comfortable career on Earth to work here, in the cold darkness, on something that might never be used. Now it would be. All primary systems are green, Emma reported during the daily briefing. Reactor output is at 98% optimal. Weapons systems have passed all testing protocols. Fighter launch systems are ready. Shield generators are functioning above projected specifications. The station commander, a quiet man named Peter Shaw, nodded slowly. How long until we can move her? 2 weeks for final preparations? Emma said. But if the Admiral needs her sooner, we can move in 72 hours. It just means some of the backup systems won't be at full capacity. Prepare for the 72-hour window, Peter ordered. If the Crithians are moving fleets into position, we can't afford to wait. Emma felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold station corridors. For years, this had been theoretical. A project. A contingency plan that everyone hoped would never be needed. Now, it was real. Somewhere out there, alien battle fleets were moving toward human space, with the intention of forcing Earth into submission. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Ryan Webb sat in a bar on the neutral trade station called Haven's Rest. The station was a crossroads where dozens of species mixed, traded, and shared information. Ryan appeared to be a simple merchant dealing in rare minerals. But his real job was intelligence gathering. He had been in deep cover for 6 years. The bar was crowded tonight. Ryan nursed his drink slowly, listening to conversations around him. His translator implant picked up dozens of languages and converted them in real time. Heard the humans rejected the Council's offer, one trader said. The speaker was Vendorian, a species known for their mercantile skills. 6 months is generous, another voice replied. This one was from a species Ryan didn't recognize. Most non-compliant species get much less time. The humans have, 50 ships? The first speaker laughed. The Crithian fleet moving to their border has 300. It'll be over in a day. Ryan sipped his drink and said nothing. Let them think what they wanted. His real attention was on the military officers, sitting in the corner booth. 2 Crithian fleet commanders, discussing their deployment orders with the casual confidence of people who had never faced a real challenge. The 6th Fleet will take position at the edge of their home system, one was saying. 4th Fleet will blockade their colony worlds. It's all routine containment. The humans will surrender before we fire a shot. What if they don't? The other commander asked. Then we make an example of 1 colony. Maybe 2. The Council wants this resolved with minimal destruction. The infrastructure is valuable, and the humans have some interesting technology we'd like to acquire. But if they force our hand, we'll do what's necessary. Ryan memorized every word. These conversations would be encrypted and sent back to Earth within the hour. Intelligence was critical now. Every piece of information about alien fleet movements, every detail about their plans and assumptions, all of it fed into Earth's strategic planning. The Crithians were confident. That was good. Confidence made people sloppy. Back in Earth's solar system, Captain Megan Torres commanded the cruiser Valiant. Her ship was one of Earth's visible fleet. The ships that the Council knew about and had dismissed as inadequate. Today, her orders were to conduct what the official logs called Retreat exercises. All ships. This is Valiant Actual. Megan broadcast to the small fleet under her command. Begin retreat pattern Delta. We're going to practice a fighting withdrawal toward Mars' defensive positions. On the bridge, her tactical officer looked uncomfortable. Captain, the Council has monitoring stations watching us. They're going to see us practicing retreat maneuvers. That's the point, Megan said quietly. We want them to think we're scared. We want them to believe we know we can't win a direct fight. But we can't, the officer pointed out. Not with this fleet, Megan smiled. This fleet? No. But we're not the only fleet Earth has. We're just the one everyone can see. The exercises continued for 3 days. Human ships practiced falling back, coordinating defensive positions, preparing evacuation routes. Every Council spy station in the area reported the same thing. The humans were preparing to retreat or surrender. Their military exercises showed no offensive capability, no confidence in victory. Exactly as planned. Deep in Neptune's shadow, the final checks were being completed. Emma Wright walked through corridors that stretched for miles. The ship she had helped build was so large that it had its own internal transit system. 5 miles from bow to stern, with a crew capacity of 8,000 and carrying enough firepower to level a planet. The humans had named it Resolute. It's beautiful, Emma said softly, standing in the observation deck and looking at the vessel through the viewport. And terrifying. It's necessary, Peter Shaw said beside her. The galaxy thinks peace comes from everyone being equally weak. We're going to show them that real peace comes from everyone being too strong to attack. What if it's not enough? Emma asked. What if the Council still attacks? Then we built 3 more. Peter replied. Construction on the second carrier is 70% complete. The third is at 40%. If we need to, we can have a fleet of supercarriers within 5 years. But I don't think we'll need to. 1 should be enough to change the calculation. Emma hoped he was right. She had given years of her life to this project. Thousands of others had done the same. Workers had labored in secret, sworn to never speak of what they built. Resources had been diverted quietly, covered by creative accounting and classified budgets. Entire families had sacrificed normal lives to work in isolated stations where one mistake could mean discovery. All for this moment. Signal from Earth Command, a communications officer reported. Admiral Carson sends his compliments. He says, "Bring her into the light." Peter nodded. Begin power-up sequence. Full systems activation. Plot a course that brings us around Neptune and into the inner system. Make sure every sensor in the solar system sees us coming. Sir, that will definitely alert the Crithian monitoring stations, the officer warned. That's exactly what we want, Peter said. It's time to end the hiding. It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Throughout human space, secret messages passed between ships and stations. Personnel who had been living normal lives suddenly received activation orders. Reserves were called up. Construction yards went to full production. The economy shifted smoothly into a war footing, guided by plans that had been prepared decades ago. The galaxy saw none of this. They saw only what humans wanted them to see. A species preparing to either surrender or die bravely in a hopeless fight. In 4 weeks, the Crithian fleet would arrive at Earth's border with an ultimatum. They expected to find a frightened species ready to capitulate. They expected to demonstrate the Council's power with minimal effort. Instead, they were about to discover that humanity had been ready for this fight since the day they joined the galactic community. They were about to learn that sometimes the prey has teeth. The Crithian battle fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 300 warships, organized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. Fleet Commander Veshnar stood on the bridge of his flagship, surveying the sensor displays with satisfaction. "Scan for human vessels," he ordered. "Detecting 42 ships," the sensor officer reported. "Standard cruiser and destroyer configurations. They're holding position near Mars' orbit. No aggressive movements detected. Veshnar nodded. This was going exactly as expected. The humans knew they were outmatched. They would posture briefly, perhaps make some brave statements for their historical records, and then they would surrender. By nightfall, this matter would be resolved. Open a channel to the human fleet, Veshnar commanded. All frequencies. The communication systems activated, and Veshnar's voice was broadcast across the solar system. This is Fleet Commander Veshnar of the Krithian Empire, acting under the authority of the Galactic Council. Humanity has been given sufficient time to comply with integration protocols. Your time has expired. Surrender your military vessels immediately and prepare to receive Council oversight teams. You have 1 standard hour to respond. On Earth, Admiral Ben Carson listened to the transmission from his underground command center. Around him, dozens of officers waited for his response. The moment had finally arrived. Send them a reply, Ben said calmly. Tell them we're considering their request. Ask for 2 hours to consult with our government. Sound concerned but not panicked. Captain Megan Torres, whose fleet was holding position near Mars, received her orders moments later. She opened a channel to the Krithian fleet. Commander Veshnar, this is Captain Torres of the Earth vessel Valiant. We acknowledge your transmission. We are consulting with our government authorities. We request 2 hours to formulate a response. Veshnar allowed himself a small smile. They were stalling, hoping for some miracle that wouldn't come. But 2 hours made no difference. He could afford to be generous in victory. You have 2 hours, he replied. Use them wisely. The Krithian fleet began advancing slowly into the solar system, maintaining their formation. Their sensors swept space constantly, cataloging every human vessel, every station, every defensive position. Everything matched their intelligence reports. Earth's military was exactly as weak as they had calculated. What their sensors couldn't see, hidden behind Neptune's magnetic field and several layers of advanced stealth technology, was the Resolute. All systems are green, Captain Nicole Grant reported from the supercarrier's bridge. She was a veteran officer who had been selected for this command 3 years ago. The preparation for this moment had been intense. She had run thousands of simulations, drilled her crew until they could perform every operation in their sleep, and studied every known alien military tactic. The Krithian fleet is advancing, her tactical officer reported. They're taking a standard occupation formation. Very confident. No defensive posturing at all. There. They have no idea we exist, Nicole said. That's about to change. Helm, take us around Neptune. Full power to engines. I want every sensor in this system to see us coming. Yes, ma'am, the helmsman replied. Course plotted. We'll be visible to their sensors in 3 minutes. Nicole felt her heart rate increase slightly, but her hands were steady. This was what Earth had built the Resolute to do. Announce to the galaxy that humanity would not be pushed around. Communications. Prepare a message for the Krithian fleet. I'll tell you what to say when we're visible. On the Krithian flagship, Veshnar was reviewing deployment plans when his sensor officer suddenly called out. Commander, new contact. Massive energy signature emerging from behind Neptune. Veshnar turned to the display. The signature was enormous, far larger than any ship he had ever seen. What is that? What is that? Unknown, sir. Analyzing now. Wait. It's a ship. A single vessel. Dimensions are. The officer's voice trailed off in disbelief. Commander, it's over 8 kilometers long. That's impossible. No species builds ships that large. Show me, Veshnar demanded. The main display shifted to show a magnified view of Neptune's orbit. Emerging from behind the planet was a vessel that dwarfed everything else in the system. It was clearly human in design, with the angular lines and functional aesthetic that characterized Earth's engineering. But the scale was beyond anything anyone had anticipated. Full tactical scan, Veshnar ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. I want to know everything about that ship. Scanning now, sir. Multiple launch bays are opening. Detecting. Hundreds of smaller craft launching. They're forming defensive patterns around the main vessel. Advanced point defense systems coming online. Energy weapons charging. Shield generators activating. Commander, the power readings are off the scale. This ship is putting out more energy than our entire fleet combined. Veshnar felt cold. This changed everything. How did we not know about this? Sir, incoming transmission from the human vessel, the communications officer reported. Put it on, Veshnar said. A human woman appeared on the display. She wore a military uniform with insignia that marked her as a captain. Behind her, the bridge of the massive ship stretched into the distance. This is Captain Nicole Grant of the Earth Space Carrier Resolute. You have entered sovereign human territory. You have been given sufficient warning. I am authorized to inform you that any further advance will be considered an act of war. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet beyond the heliopause. If you do not comply, we will force your withdrawal. Veshnar stared at the transmission. You have 1 ship. We have 300. Nicole's expression didn't change. You have 300 ships designed to fight other vessels of similar size and capability. We have 1 ship designed to fight entire fleets. Your military analysts should be running the calculations right now. I recommend you listen to them. On the Crithian flagship, the tactical officer was indeed running calculations. His face had gone pale. Commander, if their power readings are accurate, if those weapons systems perform even close to their apparent specifications, they could engage our entire fleet simultaneously. Our shields weren't designed to stop weapons of that magnitude. Test them, Veshnar ordered. Fire 3 warning shots. Standard missiles. Put them on a course that will come close, but not hit. Sir, is that wise? Do it. 3 missiles launched from the Crithian fleet, streaking toward the Resolute. They were programmed to pass within a kilometer of the carrier, a standard intimidation tactic. On the Resolute's bridge, Nicole watched the missiles approach. Point defense. You may engage when ready. Engaging, the weapons officer replied calmly. The Resolute's point defense system was a network of laser batteries controlled by advanced computer systems. The targeting solutions were calculated in microseconds. 3 precise beams of light reached out across space, and the missiles simply ceased to exist. They didn't explode. They didn't veer off course. They were destroyed so completely that debris barely registered on sensors. Time to target, 0.4 seconds, the weapons officer reported. All 3 missiles eliminated simultaneously. Nicole opened the channel again. Commander Veshnar, I hope that demonstration was informative. Our point defense can track and eliminate hundreds of targets simultaneously. Your missiles are not a threat to this vessel. Would you like to test our offensive capabilities? Or would you prefer to withdraw while your fleet is still intact? On the Crithian flagship, Veshnar stood frozen. His military training was screaming at him. Everything he knew about tactics said that you didn't fight a battle you couldn't win. Pride said to advance. Survival said to retreat. Get me the Galactic Council, he said finally. Emergency priority. Sir, what about the human fleet? His second-in-command asked. What about them? Veshnar replied. They have 1 ship that makes our entire fleet irrelevant. I need orders from people who aren't looking at that monster on their sensors. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaotic. Representatives shouted over each other. High Arbiter Zek then stood at the center, trying to restore order. The transmission from Veshnar was playing on every display. How is this possible? Someone demanded. We've had observers watching human shipyards for 2 decades. They built it somewhere we weren't watching, another representative said. Obviously. The question is what we do now, Zek then said. Commander Veshnar is requesting orders. The human vessel is clearly superior to anything we have in that system. Ambassador Lisa Brennan stood at the human podium. and for the first time since joining the council, she was smiling. "Hi, Arbiter. I believe I can answer your question about what you should do now. You should do what humanity requested from the beginning. Leave us alone. We built the Resolute because we knew this day would come. We knew that eventually, the Council would decide that an independent humanity was too inconvenient to tolerate. So we prepared. You built a doomsday weapon," Zek then accused. "We built a deterrent," Lisa corrected. "We have no interest in conquest. We have no interest in threatening anyone. But we will not surrender our freedom. The Resolute exists to ensure that no one can force us to. This changes nothing," Zek then said. But his voice lacked conviction. "You have one ship. We have fleets." "Yes," Lisa agreed. "You have fleets. But now you know we have the capacity to build ships that make your fleets obsolete. So, I'll ask you the same question Captain Grant asked Commander Veshnar. Do you want to test our capabilities further? Or do you want to accept that humanity has earned its sovereignty?" The council chamber fell silent. Every representative was doing the same calculation. If humanity could build one ship like that, they could build more. And if those ships performed as well as the initial scans suggested, the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. After 20 years of assuming humanity was weak, the galaxy was discovering it had been very, very wrong. The emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its 8th hour. Representatives who had entered with confidence were now speaking in worried tones. Every species was recalculating decades of diplomatic strategy. The large display at the center of the chamber showed the Resolute, captured by long-range sensors, floating serenely near Neptune, while the Crithian fleet maintained a cautious distance. High Arbiter Zek then had called for a brief recess. Now, as the session resumed, he looked considerably less certain than he had that morning. "Ambassador Brennan," he began, his voice measured. "The Council requires answers. How long have you been building this vessel? Where was it constructed? What other military assets has humanity been hiding?" Lisa Brennan stood at her podium, looking perfectly calm. She had waited 20 years for this moment. "High Arbiter. Those are excellent questions. I'm glad you're finally asking them." "Finally?" Zek Than's expression darkened. "Yes, finally," Lisa said. "You see, the Council made a fundamental error in its approach to humanity. You watched our visible shipyards. You counted our ships. You calculated our industrial output. You did all of this. And then you concluded that you knew everything about our military capabilities. But you never asked the right question. Mar, which was, a representative from the Venn Collective called out. "What are the humans building that we can't see?" Lisa replied. "You assumed that what you observed was all that existed. That was your mistake." Senator Greg Mitchell joined Lisa at the podium. He was Earth's Security Council liaison, a career diplomat who had been involved in the Resolute project since its inception. "Let me provide some context," he said. 37 years ago, shortly after first contact with the galactic community, Earth's government made a strategic assessment. We looked at the power structures in the galaxy. We noted that the Galactic Council claimed to maintain peace, but that peace seemed to require smaller species to surrender their sovereignty. We didn't like what we saw. "So, you decided to militarize," Zek then said. "No," Greg corrected. "We decided to ensure we could never be forced into a position where our choices were submission or destruction. There's a difference. The Resolute project began 37 years ago. We identified locations in our solar system where your sensors couldn't effectively monitor us. We built automated construction facilities in the outer planets. We diverted resources gradually, over decades, so the diversion would never be obvious. And we worked. 37 years. Someone murmured. "They planned this for 37 years. It took longer than we hoped," Lisa admitted. "The technical challenges were enormous. We had to develop new technologies, new manufacturing processes, new ways of managing a project of this scale. Thousands of people worked on this project. Entire careers were spent in secret. Families made sacrifices. But we did it because we believed in our right to exist as a free species. On the Resolute, Captain Nicole Grant was conducting a demonstration for the benefit of every sensor in the solar system. Her orders from Admiral Carson were clear. Show them what we can do, but don't destroy anything. Make believers out of them without making enemies. Launch a full fighter wing, Nicole ordered. I want a perfect formation demonstration. Show them our coordination and speed. 200 fighters launched from the Resolute's bays in less than 3 minutes. They formed up in intricate patterns, moving with precision that impressed even the human crew. Each fighter was equipped with weapons, systems, and defensive shields that matched or exceeded the capabilities of most alien cruisers. Now, target practice, Nicole said. Deploy the exercise drones, a series of drones launched from the carrier, spreading out across a 1,000-kilometer radius. They were designed to be difficult targets, small and maneuverable. Fighters, you are weapons-free on all drones. Show us what you can do. The fighters broke formation and engaged. Within 90 seconds, all 50 drones had been destroyed with pinpoint accuracy. The fighters reformed and returned to the carrier without incident. Back at the council, every representative had watched the demonstration. The silence was profound. Your fighters, a military analyst from the Tarn Federation said slowly, are individually more capable than most species' primary combat vessels, and you have 200 of them on one ship. Actually, we have capacity for 400. Nicole's voice came through the transmission. We're currently operating at half capacity during this trial period. Lieutenant Commander Amy Chen, the Resolute's chief tactical officer, took over the briefing. I can provide detailed specifications if the Council is interested. Our main railgun batteries have an effective range of 50,000 kilometers. Our missile systems can engage targets at twice that distance. Our shield generators can sustain bombardment from multiple heavy cruisers simultaneously. Our point defense can track and engage 500 individual targets at once. This is one ship, Amy continued. But consider the implications. If humanity can build one, we can build more. In fact, construction on 2 additional carriers is already well advanced. Within 5 years, Earth will have a fleet of supercarriers, not to threaten anyone, but to ensure that no one can threaten us. High Arbiter Zekthan finally found his voice. This is an arms race. You're forcing the entire galaxy to respond. No, Lisa said firmly. We're forcing the galaxy to accept that humanity has the right to defend itself. There's no arms race unless you start one. We don't want your territory. We don't want to expand into areas claimed by other species. We simply want to be left alone to develop as we choose. The Resolute exists to guarantee that. Commander Kyle Hayes, who had been watching the council proceedings, spoke up. I've been analyzing the tactical data from the Krithian fleet's encounter with the Resolute. I'd like to point out something important. The Krithians fired test missiles at the carrier. Those missiles were destroyed, yes, but they were destroyed in a way that minimized debris and collateral damage. The Resolute could have used those missiles as an excuse to fire back. They didn't. Honest. Those missiles. Kenna. When Captain Grant warned the Krithian fleet to withdraw, Kyle continued, she could have fired a demonstration shot that destroyed one of their ships. She didn't. Every action humanity has taken with the Resolute has been measured and defensive. We're not the aggressors here. We're just refusing to be victims. A representative from a smaller species, the Talarian Union, raised a tentacle. May I speak? When recognized, the Talarian continued. My species has been a council member for 60 years. We accepted protectorate status because we believed we had no choice. Watching humanity now, I wonder if we gave up too easily. The Council speaks of peace and stability, but it's a peace enforced through the threat of overwhelming force against any who resist. That's order, Zekthan protested. Without it, we would have chaos. Or we would have genuine coexistence, the Tellarian replied. Species respecting each other because they must. Not because they're forced to. Perhaps humanity is showing us a different model. The discussion continued for hours. Some species angrily demanded that humanity disarm. Others quietly began reassessing their own positions. A few smaller species sent private messages to Lisa, asking questions about human shipbuilding techniques and whether Earth would share its technology. On Earth, Admiral Ben Carson watched the Council proceedings from his command center. Beside him, Dr. Emma Wright had been brought in to brief the civilian government on the Resolute's capabilities. The Council is fracturing, Emma observed. Some of them want to fight, but most are realizing that's not a viable option. The Crithians won't give up easily, Ben said. They've built their power on the assumption that they're the strongest military force in the galaxy. We've just challenged that assumption. So what happens next? Emma asked. That depends on whether they're smart enough to back down. Ben replied. If they are, this ends peacefully. If they're not, we'll have to teach them a harder lesson. A transmission came through from the Resolute. Captain Nicole Grant's face appeared on the screen. Admiral, we're receiving increased sensor activity from the Crithian fleet. They're analyzing our every move. I don't think they're preparing to attack, but they're definitely not withdrawing either. Maintain position, Ben ordered. Keep your defensive posture. Don't give them any excuse to claim we're the aggressors. But Nicole, if they do attack. I know, sir, Nicole replied. We're authorized to defend ourselves with appropriate force. The crew is ready. Anything. Good, Ben said. Because, in about 6 hours, the Crithian Empire is going to make a decision. Either they accept the new reality, or they try to prove that their pride is worth more than their ships. I'm hoping they choose wisely. Back at the Council, High Arbiter Zekthan called for a vote. The question before us is simple. Do we accept humanity's military development, or do we vote to enforce compliance through military action? High Arbiter, Lisa interjected. Before you vote, I want the Council to understand something clearly. Earth does not want war, but if you vote for military action, if you decide to attack human space in an attempt to force our submission, the Resolute will not be alone in defending us. Every human ship will fight. Every human colony will resist, and we will not stop until either we are destroyed or we have secured our freedom. This is not a threat. This is a promise. We've spent 4 decades preparing for this possibility. We will not surrender. 1. The vote was called. When the results appeared, they were closer than anyone expected. 28 species voted to accept humanity's position. 15 voted for military action. 4 abstained. It was not the overwhelming mandate the Crithians had hoped for. More importantly, it meant the Council was divided. Without unanimous support, any military action would be politically disastrous. Zekthan looked defeated. The Council recognizes Earth's unique position. However, this matter is not closed. The Crithian Empire reserves the right to defend its interests. The Crithian Empire is welcome to defend its interests, Lisa replied. Just not at the expense of ours. Test us if you must. High Arbiter. But remember, you had 20 years to ask what we were building. You never asked. That failure is yours, not ours. The Threshold Nebula hung in space like a curtain of colored light. It marked the boundary between human territory and the neutral zone that separated various galactic powers. It was here, 3 weeks after the Council's divided vote, that the Crithian Empire chose to make its stand. High Arbiter Zekthan had made his decision. If the Council wouldn't support overwhelming force, he would demonstrate that the Resolute was not as invincible as humans claimed. He assembled an armada of 300 warships from across the Crithian military. They gathered at the Threshold Nebula and waited. The message to Earth was direct. Come and move us, if you can. Admiral Ben Carson read the message in his command center. Around him, his senior staff waited for orders. The challenge was clear. The Crithians wanted a confrontation away from Earth's home system, in neutral space, where any conflict wouldn't threaten civilian populations. They're trying to save face, Captain Megan Torres observed. They know they can't win, but they need to show their allies that they tried. Or they genuinely believe they can overwhelm the Resolute with numbers, Commander Kyle Hayes suggested. 300 ships against one. On paper, it should work. It won't, Ben said simply. But we need to handle this carefully. If we destroy their entire fleet, we create a blood debt that will last generations. We need to defeat them decisively, but leave them with their ships and their dignity. How do we do that? Kyle asked. Ben turned to his tactical team. We show them exactly how outmatched they are, and we do it without killing anyone. Can the Resolute disable ships without destroying them? Yes, sir, the tactical officer replied. Our electromagnetic pulse weapons can shut down ship systems without damaging the hull or crew. It's designed for exactly this kind of scenario. Good, Ben said. Send orders to Captain Grant. She is authorized to engage, but with minimal casualties. Disable their fleet. Don't destroy it. I want the Crithians to go home and tell everyone that they couldn't win, but that humans showed restraint. The Resolute departed from Earth orbit with an escort of 20 human ships. The smaller vessels were there mostly for appearance. Everyone knew the supercarrier was the real power. Captain Nicole Grant stood on her bridge, watching the stars stream past as they traveled toward the Threshold Nebula. Fleet Commander Dan Hawkins, who commanded the escort vessels, appeared on her communication screen. Captain Grant, my ships are ready to support however you need, Dan said. I appreciate that, Commander, Nicole replied. But stay back once we engage. Your job is to observe and document. If something goes wrong and the Resolute is disabled, you're authorized to retreat and carry word back to Earth. I don't want the entire human fleet destroyed because we underestimated the Crithians. Understood, Dan said. But for the record, I don't think you're going to be the ones doing the underestimating. The journey took 2 days. When they emerged near the Threshold Nebula, the Crithian armada was waiting in perfect formation. 300 ships, organized into battle groups, their weapons systems powered up and ready. Fleet Commander Veshnar commanded the Crithian forces from his flagship. He had been humiliated at Earth's border. This was his chance for redemption. He had studied every scan of the Resolute. He had analyzed its capabilities. He had developed a strategy that he believed could work. Overwhelming numbers, attacking from multiple vectors simultaneously, focusing fire on what appeared to be the carrier's weaker aft sections. It was a good strategy. Against any other ship, it would have worked. Open a channel to the human carrier, Veshnar ordered. Nicole's face appeared on his screen. Commander Veshnar, you've chosen an interesting location for a confrontation. This is neutral space, Veshnar replied. Far from any civilian populations. What happens here affects only our two forces. The Galactic Council has not authorized this action. This is Crithian pride demanding satisfaction. I respect that, Nicole said, surprising him. You feel you need to test yourself against us. I understand. So let's establish some rules. You will attack with whatever strategy you think best. We will defend ourselves. When this is over, when you realize you cannot win, signal your surrender. We will cease fire immediately. Your ships will be disabled, not destroyed. Your crews will be safe. You can return home and report that the humans are simply too advanced to fight. You're very confident, Veshnar observed. I'm realistic, Nicole corrected. We don't want to kill anyone today, Commander. We just need to demonstrate that continued conflict is pointless. So yes, attack us. See what happens. But when it becomes clear that you're losing, have the wisdom to stop. Veshnar closed the channel. His pride burned, but he also felt a strange respect for the human captain. She wasn't gloating. She wasn't threatening. She was simply stating facts. All ships, Veshnar broadcast to his fleet. Attack pattern Omega. Simultaneous assault from all vectors. Focus fire on the enemy carrier. The first ship to score a critical hit receives full honors. Begin. The Crithian fleet surged forward. 300 ships, coordinated perfectly. Attacking from every direction at once. Missiles launched in waves. Energy weapons lit up space. It was an overwhelming assault that should have torn any ship apart. On the Resolute, Lieutenant Commander Amy Chen watched the tactical display with calm focus. Multiple inbound missiles. Count is 2,400 and rising. Energy weapons targeting our forward shields. Attack groups advancing from 7 vectors. Point defense. Engage all missiles, Nicole ordered. Shield teams. Prioritize the areas receiving direct fire. Helm. Rotate the ship to present our strongest shields to the heaviest attacks. Fighter wings. Launch and establish defensive perimeter. The Resolute's point defense system came alive. Hundreds of laser batteries tracked and eliminated incoming missiles with mechanical precision. The 2,400 missiles became 2,000, then 1,500, then 500. Within 90 seconds, every missile had been destroyed before reaching the carrier. The energy weapon barrage hit the Resolute's shields and simply dissipated. The power reserves on the carrier were so vast that the attacks barely registered. Our shields are at 97%, the defensive officer reported. No damage to the hull. Point defense systems are operating at 40% capacity. We can handle much more than this. Nicole opened a channel to the Crithian fleet. Commander Veshnar, your opening assault was impressive. Unfortunately, it was also ineffective. Would you like to reconsider your position? We. On the Crithian flagship, Veshnar stared at his displays, in disbelief. Every sensor confirmed the same thing. The human ship was essentially undamaged. The massive assault had accomplished nothing. Intensify fire, Veshnar ordered, his voice tight. All ships, close to optimal weapons range, concentrate fire on a single shield quadrant. We'll overwhelm their defenses through focused assault. The Crithian fleet adjusted, pouring all their firepower into one section of the Resolute's shields. For a few moments, it seemed to work. The shield strength in that quadrant began to drop. 90%, 85%, 80%. Then the Resolute's power distribution systems adjusted, redirecting energy from other systems. The shield stabilized at 78% and held. They're adapting, the Crithian tactical officer reported. Their power management is more sophisticated than our models predicted. Commander, I don't think we can break through their shields with conventional weapons. Nicole checked her tactical display. The Crithians had been firing continuously for 8 minutes. It was time to show them what a real response looked like. Tactical. Prepare electromagnetic pulse weapons. Target the lead ships in each attack group. I want their systems disabled, not their hulls breached. Fire. When ready. The Resolute's weapons systems had been holding back. Now they engaged with measured precision. Pulse weapons reached out across space. Invisible to normal sensors, but devastating to electronic systems. One by one, Crithian ships went dark. Their engines failed. Their weapons powered down. Their shields collapsed. The ships drifted, intact but helpless. 37 enemy vessels disabled, Amy reported. No casualties detected. They're all broadcasting emergency beacons. But their crews are safe. Continue engaging, Nicole ordered. Disable them, group by group. Let them see what's happening. Give them time to make the smart choice. Commander Kyle Hayes, watching from one of the escort vessels, was documenting everything. This would be studied in military academies for generations. The Resolute wasn't just winning. It was demonstrating a level of technological superiority that made continued resistance pointless. On the Crithian flagship, Veshnar watched his fleet being dismantled. not destroyed, which somehow made it worse. The humans were proving they could disable his ships at will, but they were choosing not to kill anyone. It was a message. We're not your enemies. We're just better armed. Sir, we've lost 96 ships to the pulse weapons, his tactical officer reported. All crews are safe, but the ships are dead in space. At this rate, our entire fleet will be disabled within 20 minutes. Veshnar looked at the Resolute on his display. The carrier had barely moved. Its shields were still above 70%. It hadn't even deployed its full fighter complement. This wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. He opened a channel to Nicole. Captain Grant, the Crithian Empire acknowledges your superiority in this engagement. We request a ceasefire. Granted, Nicole replied immediately. All ships, cease fire. Commander Veshnar, we'll withdraw to allow you to recover your disabled vessels. You should be able to restore their systems within a few hours. This was never about destroying your fleet. It was about showing you that continued conflict serves no one. You have made your point, Veshnar said quietly. The Crithian Empire will not challenge human sovereignty again. High Arbiter Zekthan received the report from the Threshold Nebula while the Galactic Council was in session. His expression was carefully controlled as he read the tactical summary. The Resolute had engaged 300 Crithian warships and disabled 96 of them without suffering any damage. Human casualties, 0. Crithian casualties, 0. It was a perfect demonstration of overwhelming but measured force. Ambassador Lisa Brennan stood at the human podium, waiting. The Council, Zek then said slowly, acknowledges that humanity possesses military capabilities that were previously unassessed. Further attempts to enforce integration protocols would be counterproductive. Does that mean Earth is free to maintain its sovereignty? Lisa asked. Yes, Zek then said. The word seemed to pain him. The Council recognizes Earth's independent status. However, we expect humanity to use its capabilities responsibly. We will, Lisa promised. We've never wanted to threaten anyone. We just wanted to ensure no one could threaten us. That goal has been achieved. Across the galaxy, diplomatic channels buzzed with activity. Species that had been watching the confrontation began reassessing their relationships with Earth. Some saw opportunity for alliance with a powerful new player. Others saw a challenge to the existing order. A few smaller species sent quiet inquiries about whether humans would be willing to share their advanced defensive technology. On Earth, Admiral Ben Carson authorized a public statement. The Resolute had performed beyond expectations. Construction on the second and third supercarriers would continue. Foundations were being laid for ships 4 and 5. Humanity was not building an empire, but it was ensuring that it could never be forced into submission. Captain Nicole Grant stood on the Resolute's bridge, looking at Earth through the viewport. The planet hung there, blue and beautiful, protected now by something more than just determination, protected by capability. Ma'am, her communication officer said, we're receiving messages from the other escort ships. They're congratulating us on the engagement. Tell them we were just doing our job, Nicole replied, but also tell them to be proud. Today, humanity proved something important. We proved that we belong in this galaxy as equals, not as subjects. No one will question that again. Number 4. Number 4. Number 4. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. For 20 years, they had watched humanity and assumed they understood what they were seeing. They had counted ships and measured industrial output and concluded that humans were weak. They had never asked what might exist in the places they couldn't see. They had never questioned whether their observations were complete. That failure of imagination had cost them. The balance of power had shifted, not through conquest or aggression, but through simple preparation. Humanity had looked at the galaxy and decided that their freedom was worth any effort. Any sacrifice, any length of time necessary to ensure it. The Resolute floated in space, massive and powerful and restrained. It was not a weapon of war. It was a statement. Humanity would stand on its own terms, and anyone who challenged that would discover just how far humans were willing to go to protect their right to exist freely among the stars.